Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is a really eerie story, if you ask me. It's about a parent of a trans kid, a so-called trans kid. One of the athletes who won a state championship in track and field recently. Just like with a lot of these cases, more information has come out about this person's father, and it's not good. When you see a situation with a so-called trans kid, you wonder about the parents. Father of New Hampshire state champion trans athlete, sentenced to federal prison for distributing, you can see there. So the father of a transgender athlete has been sentenced to 60 months in federal prison for distributing child. Marc Jacques, the father of Myel Jacques, cited his son's transgender identity and his own advocacy for transgender rights in his letter to the court, requesting a non-custodial sentence. Jacque, a former employee of Dartmouth College, came to the attention of authorities in February 2022 when federal child exploitation authorities began investigating a number of reports made through Cybertip, the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children's centralised reporting system for online exploitation of children. Look, so this person was on this platform and was distributing photos and messages that appeared to depict child SA material. The account was quickly traced back to Jacque using IP addresses associated with the image uploads. Further investigation revealed that Jacque's residential IP address in Newbury, New Hampshire, was reported in more than 40 previous cybertips reported by Reddit, Google, Tumblr, and SendVid between 2018 and 2022. They obtained a search warrant. When officers arrived, Jacque admitted the crime and voluntarily surrendered his electronic devices. There were 60 files on his iPhone, 6 files on his desktop, and they contained extremely graphic images, one in particular with a female child. I won't go into any detail, but absolutely horrific, being forced into things. So this person has 2 sons who he has full custody of. Jacque was not remanded to custody and was instead released with conditions to self-report back to court for his hearings. This guy was granted bail. On February the 26th, 2024, Jacque pleaded guilty to knowingly distributing that sort of material, waived his right to have his case heard before a grand jury. Yeah, I wonder why. The jury will hear this case for 2 minutes and be utterly sickened and disgusted. Jacque's fatherhood and children became a central point during sentencing, and both of his sons penned letters to the court requesting their father receive probation in lieu of a prison sentence. So apparently this man thinks he should evade a prison sentence so that he can advocate for trans kids. He can advocate for his child who identifies as trans. The court should be lenient on him so he can carry on indoctrinating children, so he can carry on advocating for males to compete in women's sports, taking championships from female athletes. Absolutely sickening. Myel Jacques, 16, a trans-identified boy who has become a controversial athlete. So in April, Maelle testified at the New Hampshire state legislature in opposition to a bill seeking to prohibit males from self-identifying into women's sports. In his letter to the court, Maelle characterized his father as showing sheer determination to improve from mistakes he's made in the past, and argued that his father should not be sent to prison because it would compromise his own ability to advocate for trans rights. If I were unable to stay with him due to a prison sentence, it would be a major strike to my own mental stability, as I would lose the home I grew up in and the safety I feel inside of it, as well as the sheer support from him which I simply do not receive at my mother's. The work I have begun to do with the ACLU in regard to my existence as a trans girl in sports is also relied upon his moral support in my testifying and meeting with senators. A prison sentence would also harm me and my brother's future, as we would stop receiving support for college payments without his salary, for his rehabilitation as well, and the work he's put into becoming a better person would be stripped away as he loses the ability to see his therapist and participate in group rehab if locked away. Among the mental distress put upon him by losing his kids, I beg for you to consider the work he puts in and the reliance I place upon him as a parent and necessary figure in my life. Absolutely astonishing that they would say that the courts should overlook all of the horrific images that this person had on his devices, overlook the part this person has played in the abuse and exploitation of children so that he can go and look after his trans kid. They need to be making sure that this person is nowhere near those kids. This man should not be around any children. Obviously. Of course the mother's not going to support this. And who knows? Maybe the mother doesn't think her kids are trans as the father does. Jacque's other child, Remy, similarly argued that his father should not be sent to prison, highlighted his father's support of LGBTQ issues. He also noted that their biological mother was not supportive of Myel's desire to participate in women's sports, and that his father was a better caregiver as a result. I don't think so. Very, very sad that they think that the father is a better caregiver. They're providing character references for this person. There is no character. You had images of children on your devices. This person doesn't have any character to speak of. This person should not be among regular people in society. So a doctor also provided a character reference. Dr. Elizabeth Councilman Carpenter provided a character reference to a person who had horrific images of children on his devices. A professor of social work at the Adelphi University who, like Maelle and Remi, pointed out Jacque was a committed member of his community, LGBT, LMNOP activist, in her argument against a custodial sentence. Wow. The defendant himself also wrote a lengthy letter to the court in his own defense, noting the work he had been doing with the ACLU and the GLAAD to support Myel's fight to be allowed to continue participating in girls' sports. So this person should be allowed to evade custody, to evade prison for these horrific crimes simply because he advocates for men to compete in women's sports. So in his own letter, he pointed out that he had been meeting with politicians and political organizations with his son, even after pleading guilty. On the legal side, Myel and I and Remi have been working closely with the ACLU and GLAAD to discuss possible action on both state and federal levels to provide the opportunity to play sports these last 2 years of high school. And we are presently attempting to find the appropriate path to changing gender on documents, such as her birth certificate, and legally changing her name. So yeah, the past 2 years, this came to light in 2022. Do these organizations not vet the people they work with? Or do they simply not care? So the defendant, Jacque, he also told the court that his son may be at risk of unaliving if he's sent to prison. So Jacque is originally from Quebec, and apparently he's an avid supporter of Justin Trudeau. So the good news is that the court weren't buying it. They weren't buying it for 1 second, and he was sentenced to 60 months in federal prison. However, he doesn't have to serve his sentence until December the 2nd. He's out. On December the 2nd, he is expected to surrender himself to the custody of the Bureau of Prisons. And that's it. To think he had the audacity to even make these points, being a TRA, advocating for men to compete in women's sports, for girls' sports to be ruined. by male athletes taking their national championships. He thought that he deserved to evade custody after those horrific images were found on his devices, after he's proven that he's a danger to society, he's a danger to children. So those two boys, they're living with the mother now, I'm assuming. At least it seems the mother has some common sense. So who knows? But I do hope they get the support they need, because either way, it's quite traumatic for your father to be exposed for this sort of thing and to now be in prison. But I also hope that they do not compete in women's sports, that these female athletes are left alone, that these female athletes are not put in a position where they're in the locker room with male athletes. We need to protect our girls. We need to protect our female athletes. Enough of this. But no young girl should go to school and find herself in the locker room with a boy who claims to identify as a girl, whatever. Is still a male athlete who should not be competing in her category. No young girl should come second because a male athlete took her championship. These young girls need their safe spaces when they're competing in sports, when they're in the locker room, when they're in the showers. They need their safe spaces, and that should not be compromised in any way. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.